Sarah, a woman whose spirit shone with an empathetic brightness, found herself ensnared in a love that promised everything but delivered only shadows. Her motivation for genuine connection and a stable future had led her directly into the arms of Mark, a man whose charisma was as undeniable as his charm. In the nascent stages of their relationship, Mark's adoration had swept Sarah off her feet, painting a picture of a perfect future. He was attentive, devoted, and seemingly understood her on a profound level, a quality she deeply cherished. Yet beneath this captivating veneer lay a subtle, insidious desire for control, masking insecurities that would slowly unravel Sarah's perception of reality. The whispers began innocently, almost imperceptibly. Mark would dismiss Sarah's feelings with a gentle hand, a soft voice. "You're being too sensitive, my love," or "That never happened, darling, you must be mistaken." Each instance, a tiny chisel chip by chip, eroding the bedrock of her self-trust. Sarah, inherently trusting and deeply in love, started questioning herself. Her memories, once vivid and clear, became hazy, tinged with a persistent, gnawing doubt. She'd replay conversations in her mind, searching for the flaw in her own recollection, always concluding that Mark, so steady and self-assured, must be right. As this internal confusion deepened, a more tangible isolation began to take hold. Mark, ever so subtly, discouraged her from spending time with her friends and family. "They don't understand our special bond, Sarah," he'd murmur, pulling her closer. "They're just negative influences." He painted a world where only he truly understood her, a world that subtly shrank until it contained only the two of them. Emily, Sarah's closest friend, noticed the change in Sarah, a fading spark, a hesitant quality in her voice, but struggled to articulate the unsettling shift. The warmth that once radiated from Sarah was slowly being replaced by a quiet anxiety. The control escalated, becoming less about dismissing feelings and more about rewriting history. Mark would recount past events with an altered narrative, making Sarah believe she had a faulty memory, a forgotten anniversary, a missed appointment, always her fault, always her mistake, despite her faint, protesting memories. He began to belittle her achievements, framing his critiques as constructive criticism or helping her be better. Her passion for painting, once a source of joy, became a trivial hobby in his eyes, her corporate successes merely luck. Sarah's emotional state deteriorated rapidly. Anxiety became a constant companion, confusion clouded her thoughts, and a profound sense of loneliness enveloped her, even when Mark was physically present. Then came the first major incident that truly rattled her core. They had meticulously planned a romantic getaway, a weekend trip to the coast, complete with reservations and a detailed itinerary Sarah had painstakingly organized. The day before their departure, Mark looked at her with genuine bewilderment. "The coast? Sarah, we never agreed on that. I distinctly remember us talking about visiting my parents this weekend." Sarah's heart pounded. She vividly recalled their excitement, the hours spent researching quaint inns. She tried to show him the confirmation emails, the printed itinerary, but he just shook his head, a look of pity on his face. "You must have dreamt it, love. Or perhaps you mixed up dates again." Her desperate attempts to prove herself only led to more frustration, met with his dismissive patience. "It's all right," he'd said. "We can visit my parents. You'll just have to apologize for the mix-up." Later that evening, as Sarah numbly packed a bag for a trip she hadn't planned, a flicker of defiance sparked within her. She scrolled through old photos on her phone, searching for something, anything. Hidden deep within an album of their early days, a photo appeared. Mark, holding a handwritten sign that read, "Coastal getaway, soon." It was a spontaneous moment from months ago, a silly promise. A tiny, almost imperceptible crack formed in the wall of doubt Mark had so carefully constructed around her reality. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. The tiny crack in Sarah's perception, birthed from that old photograph, was not enough to shatter the elaborate illusion Mark had woven. Instead, it merely allowed a trickle of unsettling confusion to seep into her already disoriented mind. She increasingly felt like she was losing her mind, perpetually trapped in a fog of self-doubt. Every interaction became a minefield where she constantly apologized for things she wasn't even sure she had done, her voice often trailing off as she sought Mark's subtle cues for approval or dismissal. His manipulation intensified, subtly weaponizing her deepest insecurities. He praised her intelligence only to question her judgment moments later, making her utterly dependent on his validation for any sense of self-worth. Sometimes a sudden, almost jarring shift would occur. Mark would shower her with intense affection, a love bombing that felt like a desperate return to the early days of their romance. He would bring her flowers, whisper sweet nothings, and plan romantic evenings, convincing her that things were finally improving, that the misunderstandings were behind them. During these periods, Sarah would cling to the hope that the man she fell in love with was still there, buried beneath layers of stress or perhaps her own perceived shortcomings. But invariably, the gaslighting would resume, each cycle leaving her more emotionally drained, more fragile. The relentless psychological assault began to manifest physically. Sleep became a luxury, often stolen in short, fitful bursts, punctuated by nightmares of arguments she couldn't win or memories she couldn't trust. Panic attacks, once rare, became a frighteningly regular occurrence, leaving her breathless and trembling. A deep, pervasive depression settled over her, dimming the bright spark that Emily, her devoted friend, remembered so fondly. Emily, observing Sarah's gradual decline, knew she had to act. One afternoon over coffee, Emily gently confronted Sarah. "Sarah," she began, her voice soft but firm, "I'm worried about you. You're not yourself and, well, Mark, he just seems different. The way he talks to you sometimes, it's not right." Sarah's initial reaction was a conditioned defensiveness, a reflex honed by months of Mark's subtle programming. "What are you talking about, Em? Mark's wonderful. He just wants what's best for me." But Emily persisted, sharing specific observations. Mark's dismissive tone about Sarah's job, his insistence that Sarah had forgotten their plans when Emily knew she hadn't. Emily's words, though initially met with resistance, planted a tiny, insistent seed of doubt in Sarah's mind, a seed that began to sprout in the fertile ground of her growing despair. Predictably, Mark reacted to Emily's interference with calculated fury, not directed at Sarah but at her friend. "Emily is jealous of our relationship, Sarah," he declared, his voice laced with concern. "She's always been a bit negative, hasn't she? She's trying to drive a wedge between us." He painted Emily as a saboteur, further isolating Sarah, but the seed had been planted. Later that night, unable to shake Emily's words, Sarah secretly researched gaslighting. The definitions, the examples, the chillingly accurate descriptions of the cycle she was trapped in, it all resonated with a terrifying clarity. This was her life, laid bare in clinical terms. She began to piece together the insidious pattern, a dawning realization of the psychological abuse she had endured. Yet the emotional manipulation was still too strong, too deeply ingrained for her to fully break free. Her internal conflict raged. The profound love she still harbored for Mark battled fiercely with this horrifying new understanding of his actions. Then came the critical betrayal, an act so blatant it began to chip away at the last vestiges of her denial. Sarah had been offered a promotion, a significant career advancement she had worked tirelessly for, requiring her to temporarily relocate for a specialized training program. Mark, initially supportive, had subtly undermined her enthusiasm, claiming it would strain their relationship and that her true value was in their home life. He then, without her knowledge, subtly sabotaged her application process, missing crucial deadlines and accidentally deleting important correspondence. When Sarah confronted him about the failed opportunity, he feigned shock, then turned it back on her. "You must have misunderstood the requirements, darling. Or perhaps you weren't truly committed. I was only protecting you from a mistake." This blatant act of sabotage, disguised as protection, crossed an undeniable line. It triggered a deeper sense of betrayal, a cold, hard knot in her stomach that superseded confusion. Later, while searching for a misplaced document on Mark's laptop, Sarah stumbled upon undeniable proof. A series of archived emails and instant messages between Mark and the HR department, explicitly detailing his deliberate interference, feigning her disinterest, not just a misunderstanding but a calculated, malicious act. The truth, stark and unforgiving, finally stared her in the face. The screen of Mark's laptop glowed, illuminating Sarah's face with a cold, harsh light. The emails were unambiguous, meticulously detailing Mark's calculated sabotage of her promotion. Each word was a dagger, piercing through the layers of doubt and confusion, revealing the raw, ugly truth. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from a potent cocktail of rage and a chilling clarity. The man she loved, the man she had allowed to dismantle her reality, was a deliberate architect of her downfall. This was not a misunderstanding, not an oversight, but a meticulously planned act of control. Armed with this undeniable proof, a fire ignited within Sarah. She found Mark in the living room, casually scrolling through his phone, a picture of relaxed contentment. The sight of his placid face, knowing the insidious machinations hidden beneath, fueled her resolve. "Mark," she began, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "We need to talk." He looked up, a practiced smile gracing his lips, but the moment she laid the laptop on the coffee table, opened to the incriminating emails, his composure fractured. His eyes flickered, betraying a flicker of panic. "What is this, Sarah? What are you doing?" he stammered, his voice laced with feigned confusion. "Don't!" she interrupted, her voice gaining strength. "Don't you dare try to gaslight me again. I've seen the emails, Mark. I've seen what you did to my promotion. You deliberately sabotaged my career." He launched into his familiar repertoire, initial denial, then a frantic attempt to twist the narrative. "You're overreacting, Sarah. I was trying to help you, protect you from a stressful situation. You were already so overwhelmed." He even tried to turn it back on her, portraying himself as the victim of her unreasonable accusations. He pleaded, his eyes welling up. "How could you think such a thing of me, after everything we've been through?" For a fleeting moment, the old Sarah wavered. The years of conditioning, the ingrained habit of questioning her own perceptions, threatened to pull her back into his manufactured reality. But then she saw the emails again in her mind's eye, undeniable, irrefutable. She saw Emily's worried face, remembered her own frantic research into gaslighting. A surge of self-preservation, fierce and unyielding, coursed through her. "No, Mark," she stated, her voice resonating with newfound authority. "I'm not overreacting. I'm seeing clearly for the first time in years. You didn't protect me. You controlled me. You didn't help me. You undermined me. You systematically dismantled my confidence, isolated me from my friends, and made me believe I was losing my mind, all to maintain your power over me." She articulated the patterns of his abuse, each accusation a hammer blow against his crumbling facade. The confrontation ended with Sarah walking out, not in a fit of despair, but with a resolute step towards her own liberation. Mark's pleas and threats followed her, but they no longer held power. The immediate aftermath was a turbulent sea of emotions: grief for the love she thought she had, anger at the deception, and a profound sense of exhaustion. Yet beneath it all, a fragile seedling of relief and liberation began to sprout. Emily was there, a steadfast anchor in the storm, offering a spare room, a listening ear, and unwavering support. Other friends and family, once pushed away by Mark, rallied around her, their presence a balm to her wounded spirit. Sarah sought therapy, a crucial step in processing the trauma and beginning the arduous journey of rebuilding her shattered self-esteem. Each session was a painful excavation, unearthing buried memories and distorted perceptions. Slowly, painstakingly, she re-established her independence. She reconnected with her passions, the ones Mark had subtly dismissed or ridiculed. She rediscovered the vibrant, empathetic woman she had been before Mark, a woman who had simply been a victim of sophisticated manipulation, not weak or flawed. Years later, Sarah looked back, not with bitterness, but with a quiet strength. She understood the insidious psychology of gaslighting, not just intellectually, but with the deep wisdom of lived experience. Her story, once a testament to vulnerability, became a beacon of resilience. She found peace, a profound sense of self-worth, and a renewed commitment to authenticity. Her future was not just open, it was hers, built on respect, truth, and the unwavering power of reclaiming one's own reality. The triumph of truth over deception and the profound journey of personal redemption had transformed her completely.